Yeah, please turn your videos on. Yeah, how have you been? All well? All good? You look a bit more active, energetic, enthusiastic because we did not have auditing class for quite some time now. Correct, no? So all those things have instilled positivity. Correct? Great, super. So I hope you enjoyed Caps Hopper. Yeah, you all
Yes,
guys
sir.
met
Yes, sir.
virtually. Your friends, you guys met in person.
Yes.
You had
Yes,
fun,
sir.
enjoyment. Yeah, good. I know it would have been a very memorable event for all of you, and also there was no person to irritate you. Correct, no? So good, amazing. So fine. So I hope you have written the test with integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, professional competence and due care, and with professional behavior. All fundamental principles you have kept in mind when you have written the answers. Yeah, question paper
Yes,
was
sir.
manageable, easy, difficult. Most of them were not covered. What is your view? Easy,
Manageable.
manageable. Yeah, great. So, but all concepts have been covered except for the government audit, maybe that one chapter. I think all others is covered. No, I mean not in revision class, but in regular class only it's covered. Correct? No,
Yes, sir.
nothing is left as such. Okay, so let's get into the evaluation. Please mark the answers. Please be strict because don't think that you're evaluating your answer key. You evaluate as though you're answering my answer key. Evaluating my answer key. A cope of frustration ella answer key ಮೇಲೆ ತೋರಿಸಿ. Okay, so let's get into the MCQs first. I will repeat one option twice, one question twice so that you mark it. And then if you have any questions, we can get into that specific question. So each question carries 2 marks. So you get it, otherwise you lose. So put marks if you have awarded. Don't put zero, put marks. Leave it blank so that you don't count zeros, right? If you count zeros, you get zero. You don't do that. So one is C, one C, two A, two is A, three is B, Bangalore, three B, Bangalore, four B, Bangalore, 5C, 5C, 6D, Delhi, 6D, 7 Bangalore B, 7B, 8D, Delhi, 8D, 9C, 9C, 10D, Delhi, 11B, Bangalore, 11B, Bangalore, 12A, 12A, 13A, 13A, 14D, Delhi, 14D, Delhi, 15D, Delhi. Okay. So now let's not dispute what the correct answer should be. At the end, we will discuss. Anybody wants me to repeat any question?
Sir, 15 questions for this.
Is it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, fine. Fine. So you answered both.
Yes, sir.
Let me just see. So I think the sufficiency appropriateness, this answer is related to that. Maybe 16. Okay. So we'll mark it as 16. This is for 16. So for 15, let me see. The other one, the previous one, the last but one is C. Okay. There were 215 questions, right? Question number 15. There are two things. The option D is right for that sufficiency and appropriateness related question. Okay. That means 16 is D. 16 is D. 15 should be C, cat. Okay, got it? It doesn't happen, but it has happened now. Yeah. So can we get into the descriptive part? Anybody wants me to repeat any question? Answer to any of the question? Yeah? No? Can we move on? Yeah, let's get in. People are very silent. You don't even respond to questions. You're that silent. Yeah, so let's get into the first question, descriptive part, compulsory question. CI Rimi is appointed as an auditor of ASI Private Limited. During the audit, she decided to use various audit procedures to gather sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, such as identify and explain the type of above mentioned procedure performed by CI Rimi in accordance with the relevant essay. So now, if you have written a relevant essay, you should. I will tell you how you should mark. If you have not written the essay number, you should reduce zero point 0.5. Okay, from total 5, you should reduce zero point 0.5 if you have not written. And if you have written wrong essay, I mean, like for example, essay 500, audit sampling, you should give the entire question as 0. You understand? You got it? So quoting wrong section, quoting wrong standards will render your entire answer invalid. Don't ever do that. You don't know as per the relevant standards on auditing. If you're very confident, right? I mean, standards you should be confident when I'm talking about sections in the Companies Act or income tax or various law. So the first one is as per SA 500. Your answer should start with SA 500. As per SA 500, auditor will perform lot of procedures to obtain audit evidence. You can write that simple line just to introduce audit evidence. Okay, first one, even if you don't, if not written, it's okay, but you have to write as per SA 500. The answer should be continued. First one, while verifying the fixed assets, she examined factory equipment and verified the presence of each item. Inspection. The answer is inspection. If you have written inspection, 1 mark. Inspection involves examining records or documents, whether internal or external, in paper form or electronic form or other media, or a physical examination of an asset. We clarified this in class also, right? So if you have written the explanation, your explanation should carry involves examination, physical examination of an asset. That should be the keyword in your answer. You've written that 1 plus 1. Otherwise, if you've written only inspection, give yourself 1 mark. Sorry, it is no 0.5. I'm sorry, it's 0.5. 0.5 for identifying the right procedure, 0.5 for proper explanation. Sometimes if you have written contradictory, it will be 0. Like you have written inspection and you have written something related to inquiry, then it should become 0. You should not give yourself mark because right technique with the explanation is what they will look out. If you simply write some technique without right explanation, it will become 0. You understand? Yeah. Second one, to verify the company's accounts receivable, she directly sends balance confirmation to some of the customers. External confirmation. If you've written external confirmation, put a tick mark. External confirmation represents audit evidence obtained by the auditor directly as a written response from a third party in paper or electronic form. This provides the most reliable audit evidence. Next. CRME examined purchase invoices, contracts, and authorization records to assess the validity of payments and the approval process. This again, the answer is inspection. Written inspection, put a tick mark. Inspection involves examination of records, documents in paper or electronic form. Inspection provides documentary evidence, more particularly used in case of evaluating effectiveness of internal controls. That has to be. So you have to write the definition or meaning of the term inspection as part of the audit technique. If you have written that, you'll get marks. Next. She independently performs bank reconciliation that was originally carried out by the accounts department. This is re-performance. The answer should be re-performance. Re-performance involves auditors' independent execution of procedures or controls that were originally performed as part of the entity's control process. Anyway, anything which is performed by the entity, auditor independently verifies. So that has to be written as part of the explanation. Last one, she also checked the accuracy of depreciation calculations made by the client. The answer is recalculation. It's quite simple. Recalculation. Recalculation consists of checking mathematical accuracy of the documents or records. It can be performed manually or electronically. So that can be written. So 5 questions. Identifying the correct name gives you 0.5. The proper explanation 0.5. If the explanation is contradictory or absolutely unrelated to the point, 0. That's how you should evaluate. I hope I've given you the process. Next question is 2. 1B. C.A. Rashmi is the auditor of ABC Limited for financial year 31st March 2024. The audit report was signed by her on 19th of April 2024. On 25th of April 24, the company received a communication from CG that an incentive amount of 5 crores pertaining to 23-24 was approved. It was paid by the company but not yet issued to the shareholders. The board of directors wished to include the incentive amount in the financial statement and requested the auditor to issue fresh audit report for the year ended March 24. Analyze the issue involved and give an overview of the auditor's responsibility in such a situation. So the answer should be related to SA 560. As per SA 560, subsequent events, you should have written quote unquote as per SA 560, subsequent events, underline if you have written that. The auditor has no, first point, the auditor has no obligation to perform any audit procedures regarding the financial statements after the date of auditor's report. This should be your first point. However, when the after the date of auditor's report but before the date of financial statements are issued, a fact becomes known to the auditor that had it been known to the auditor at the date of the auditor's report may have caused the auditor to amend the auditor's report. The auditor shall discuss the matter with management where appropriate, those charged with governance, determine whether the financial statements require amendment. Point number C, inquire how management intends to address the matter. This should be your second point. Third point, if the management intends to amend the financial statements, the auditor shall carry out audit procedures necessary in the circumstances. The auditor shall extend the audit procedures and provide a new audit report on the amended financial statements. This is very important. Underlining this is crucial. In the instant case, ABC Limited received, you have to repeat the same thing. Applying the conditions, C.A. Rashmi can issue the new audit report subject to the date of the audit report, which should not be earlier than the date of the approval of the audited financial statements. So your answer should cover first, auditor has no obligation to perform audit procedures. That gives you 1 mark. Second point, this carries 2 marks actually. If the auditor identifies any subsequent event which makes him to give a opinion what was given earlier as different, then he should discuss the matter with the management, determine whether FS requires amendment, and then those 3 points carries 1 mark, and then perform audit procedures. So put together you should carry 2 marks. Explaining the case gives you 1 mark. Then finally concluding that she can give the audit report on the amended financial statements carries 1 mark. So 5, provided you have written SA 560 quote unquote subsequent events. If you have not written, you have to reduce 0.5 accordingly. You understand?
Yes.
Got it? Yes. Next, third question. Following is the extract from the schedule number 10 of advances appearing in the financial statements of branch of a nationalized bank for the year ended March 24. Bills purchase and discount, cash credits, all those things. In carrying out audit of above advances is part of statutory audit of a branch. A statutory auditor would obtain evidence about certain matters. State those matters. This is for 4 marks. In carrying out advances, the auditor is primarily concerned with, if you keep in your mind those assertions, at least you could have written the answer. I told you to keep assertions in your mind. Amounts included in the balance sheet represent, amount included in the balance sheet in respect of which are outstanding as at the balance sheet date. Point number 1. Point number 2, advances represent the amounts due to the bank. Or you have to write advances represent the amount that the bank has the right to receive. Whatever wordings convey the same meaning. Third point, amounts due to the bank are appropriately supported by loan documents and other information as applicable. Fourth point, there are no unrecorded advances, or you can write all advances that should have been included have been included. Either of the ways you can write. Okay, this is in the negative form, but you can write it in a positive form. That will still get you marks. Next, the stated basis for valuation of advances is appropriate and properly applied, and the recoverability of the advances is recognized in their valuation. Or you can write The advances have been valued as per the banking requirement norms, considering the income recognition and asset classification as laid by RBI. You can write that also. Next, the advances are disclosed, classified, and described in accordance with the recognized accounting policies and practices as per the requirements of statute. Or it is about disclosure. The advances have been properly classified, presented, and disclosed in the financial statements as per the requirements of Banking Regulation Act. That also you can write. Appropriate provision towards advances have been made as per IRAC norms. That is what we have discussed. So all these points, you should have written any 4 valid points what I have read out. So if you have written 4, give yourself 4. If you have written 3, give yourself 3. Like that, you should reduce. No extra marks for something else you have written. I'm sorry, but it will not give you marks. Institute will not give you marks if you write something else. That's why. We respect it, but we don't value it. That's all. Don't waste your ink. Next question is question number 2. Anyway, question number 1 was a compulsory question. I hope everybody have written this. You should know that you cannot leave compulsory questions unattended. So let's get into question number 2. Can we?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. The question is, CAB was the auditor of Star Limited. He wanted to ensure that company had correctly reconciled its bank account and also wanted to understand whether how far the internal control system was operating in the company. What kind of test of control was CAB performing? What other procedures that can be applied while undertaking test of controls? Inquiries with the management. That should be the answer, primary answer. After considering the internal system, auditor needs to examine whether and how far you have to write as per SA'315 quote unquote. This is as per SA'315, identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement. The auditor needs to examine whether and how far the system actually is in operation. Test of controls are performed to obtain audit evidence on the effectiveness of the design of the accounting and internal system, operation of the internal control throughout the period. In the given case, CAB was performing re-performance. That should be our answer. In the given case, CAB was performing re-performance. It involves auditors. Same, you have to repeat the one which was written in question 1. It involves the auditor's independent execution of the procedures or controls that were originally performed as part of the entity's internal control. For example, reconciliation of bank accounts to ensure that they were correctly performed by the entity. Other procedures that can be applied while undertaking test of control: inspection of the records, documents, or other processes to understand the evidence related to internal controls that they have been operated properly. So this is your main point: inspection of documents or records. Second is inquiries about or observation of internal controls. Third point, testing internal controls on specific computerized applications over the overall information technology function, access program, or control chain. So if you can also write re-performance and observation. Remember those 4 points: inquiry, inspection, re-performance, and observation. Those 4 points are to be written. Those 4 points together with re-performance as the answer should give you 5 marks. So the re-performance and explanation gets you 1 mark. Then explaining these 4: observation, inquiry, re-performance, and inspection gives you the remaining 4 marks. Each one carries 1 mark. Do you understand the scheme? Can we move on to the next question?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Third, 2B. I'll repeat 2B. StayFit Private Limited is a startup that has been in business for about 2 years. It runs an application that provides valuable information pertaining to nutrition and help its client to access the customized healthy food. The company's revenue are expected to grow in the coming period. Although the company has reflected net losses in its financial statements for the last 2 years, it has managed to meet its financial commitments. The financial statements for the last 2 years were prepared on going concern basis. The management of the company wants to follow the same basis of the accounting for the current year. Is the view of management appropriate? How does the going concern affect the preparation of financial statements? A question from 570. As per SA 570 going concern is one of the fundamental accounting assumptions while preparing and presenting the financial statements in accordance with applicable financial reporting framework. The entity is normally considered as a going concern unless there are certain events or conditions that may make it impossible for the entity to continue in the foreseeable future. In the given situation, the company has reflected net losses for the last 2 years, but is able to meet its financial commitments, signifying its ability to carry on the business and trade. The revenue of the company is also expected to grow in the coming period. It shows that management has neither the intention nor the necessity to liquidate or curtail materially the scale of operations. Therefore, the view of the management for following going concern basis of accounting in the current year is deemed appropriate. See, what your answer should cover is AS1 definition of going concern. If you have written that, it will give you points. The entity neither has the intentions of ceasing or curtailing its scale of operations. That point itself is the main crux to this question. Further, the significance of going concern is due to its effect of preparation of financial statements. Ability or otherwise of an enterprise to be viewed as going concern affects the financial statement. So you can write the going concern assumption is an important aspect as it forms the basis for the preparation of financial statements. You also can write it is one of the fundamental accounting assumptions on the premise on which the financial statements are prepared. So when the use of going concern basis is appropriate, assets and liabilities are recorded on the basis that the entity will be able to realize its assets and discharge the liabilities in the normal course. When enterprise is not viewed as a going concern, the financial statements are prepared under liquidation basis. This is very important. They're asking you how going concern affects the preparation of financial. This question is not per se related to standards of auditing. It's question related to yes, more so, right? So that is what your answer should cover. So first, your answer should cover going concern is a fundamental accounting assumption, and it is to be it is the basis for the preparation of financial statements. Second, explaining that the entity's revenue is expected to grow and its ability to meet the financial obligations gives us enough conditions that the entity can be considered as going concern, and the fact that it's a startup would also add to the point. Considering all these factors, the use of going concern assumption is deemed appropriate. This should be your second point. The third point is what is the question about? The question is about how does it affect the preparation of financial statements. There you have to explain it is one of the fundamental accounting assumptions that is understood to be followed by the entity. And then you should explain if the going concern assumption is not appropriate, then the financial statements are to be prepared under liquidation basis. All these points should be there in your answer. If you have not written, reduce the marks according to the points that I'm explaining it to you. Got it? See, it's very difficult to provide you scheme of evaluation for a theory paper. It's easy for me to give a practical paper, but theory it's very difficult. So I hope you're able to manage, because if I see your answer, I know how to mark, but I'm not able to see. I'm just reading out the answers. So if you have any doubts, you please let me know. I can clarify and take it at the end. But don't get disheartened if you've not written the way I'm reading it out, because even I also have the answer key. It's not that I have written the answer. It's I'm reading out from the answer key. You got it? Next. The management of Cool Drinks Limited suspects that some of the employees may be involved in making fraudulent payments to dummy workers as it's planned in the country. Therefore, they are considering appointment of a firm of auditors to conduct audit involving detailed examination of accounts. However, one senior person among the board members, Mr. P, objects the use of the word audit in the proposed assignment. Comment has also discussed how audit is different from investigation. So you have to write first the definition of audit. An audit is an independent examination of financial information of an entity with a view to express an opinion on the financial statements. An audit is conducted with a view to express an opinion as to whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatements by obtaining reasonable assurance. An audit is different from investigation. Investigation is the critical examination of the accounts or records with a specific purpose. This has to be underlined in your answer. If a fraud is suspected, then if a person is called upon to check the accounts whether fraud has taken place or not, it takes characteristics of investigation is what you have to write. The scope of audit is general, while the scope of investigation is specific and narrow. In the given situation, management of the company suspects that some of its employees may be involved in making fraudulent payments. Therefore, such an assignment is in the nature of investigation. This carries 1 mark. They're asking you what is the nature of the assignment. So you have to give marks to this. Therefore, Mr. P is right in objecting the use of the word audit in the proposed appointment. So very simple. You have to write the definition of audit, objective of audit, objective as in to express opinion on the financial statements, explain the meaning of the term investigation, bring out 1 or 2 points of differences between an investigation and audit, and conclude that it is not, the assignment nature is investigation and not audit. Got it? So that gives you 4 marks. So if not written it, you have to reduce the marks accordingly. Is it clear? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Let's move on to the next question. Question number 3. PQR and Associates. Sorry. And MNO and Co. Both firms of chartered accountants have been appointed as joint auditors of Gamma and Beta Limited. Before the commencement of the audit, the joint auditors should discuss and develop a joint audit plan. In developing the joint audit plan, the joint auditors should identify division of audit areas and common audit areas. Explain stating the other relevant considerations in this regard with reference to the standards on auditing. So your answer should start with what? Quote unquote SA-299 joint audit of financial statements. Before commencement of the audit, the joint auditors should discuss and develop a joint audit plan. In developing the joint audit plan, the joint auditors should consider, identify division of audit areas and common audit areas. All these points, specific points only you should write. If you have written something else, only give yourself marks. Second point, ascertain the reporting objectives of engagement. Third point, consider and communicate among all joint auditors the factors that are relevant in directing the engagement team's efforts. Fourth point, consider the results of the preliminary engagement activities or similar engagements performed earlier. Last point, ascertain the nature, timing, and extent of the resources necessary to accomplish the engagement. So these 5 points gives you 5 marks. Any other points will not fit you mark. Next question. Can I go to the next question, everyone? Yeah. KSJS and Associates are the statutory auditors. During an audit briefing, CS Sanket, the engagement partner, explained that the auditor must assemble the audit documentation in an audit file and complete the administrative process of finalizing the audit file on a timely basis after the date of auditor's report. He also highlighted the requirements of SQ7 regarding establishment of policies and procedures for retention of engagement documentation in a firm, explained the requirements related to timely assembly and retention of audit files in accordance with relevant engagement and quality control standards. This question is quite simple, right? The auditor shall assemble the audit documentation in an audit file and complete the administrative process of assembling the final audit file on a timely basis after the date of auditor's report. You can reproduce the same thing what is there in the question, because those are the principles of 230. That is the first point. Second point, SQC1 requires firms and policies to establish procedures for the timely completion. Underline the timely completion is important. Timely completion of the assembly of audit file. An appropriate time within which to complete the assembly of final audit file is ordinarily not more than 60 days from the date after the date of auditor's report, or you can also write the assembly of final audit file should be completed within 60 days from the date of auditor's report. Anything is fine. No deduction of marks. No deduction, that means you'll get marks. The completion of the assembly of the final audit file after the date of auditor's report, this is very important, is an administrative process that does not involve the performance of new audit procedures or drawing new conclusions. This point should be written in your answer key. If you have not written, you will not get, will reduce 1 mark out of 5. Changes may, however, be made to the audit documentation, such as deleting, superseding, or discarding the documentation. Superseded documentation, sorting, collating, cross-referencing, signing off, and completion of checklist, all those things. Next point, once the assembly of the final audit is completed, the auditor shall not delete or discard the audit documentation before its retention period. This point is very important. SQC1 requires the firms and entities to have a retention policy not ordinarily shorter than 7 years from the date of auditor's report or group auditor's report, whichever is later. This should be your point. Understood? Can I move on to the next question? Parallelly, you can mark, mark as in stepwise mark marks. In total, don't put marks. Like, for example, after reading the entire answer, don't give 4, 3 like that. Each step you should mark, because that's how I say evaluate your answer paper. And your answer should be considering the keywords only. You cannot dilute the language. Language cannot be diluted. Next point. TS has raised funds by issuing fully convertible debentures. These funds were raised for expansion and diversification of the business. The company had clearly outlined in its board resolution that these funds will be used for the purpose of business expansion and diversification only. However, the company has utilized these funds for repayment of long-term loans and advances rather than for the intended purpose of growth and expansion. State the reporting responsibility of the auditor under para 3 of clause 10 of Companies Auditors Reporting Order 2020. The auditor is required to report under clause 10 of para 3 of CARO 2020 as whether monies raised by way of initial public offer or for further public offer, including debt instruments during the year, were applied for the purposes for which those were raised. If not, the details together with delays or defaults and subsequent rectification, if any, as may be applicable, be reported. This is your first point. Reproducing what is there in CARO has to be made. Second, whether the company has made any preferential allotment or private placement, including convertible debentures, and whether the funds have been used for the purpose for which it was raised. Now, in the given case, TS has issued fully convertible debentures. These debentures were supposed to be utilized for the purpose of business expansion and diversification. However, the company has defaulted in utilizing these funds for repayment of long-term loans, which leads to deviation in the usage of funds. And accordingly, the auditor shall report the said fact. This is what you should write. Very important conclusion. If you don't write, you will not get full marks. You may get only half of the total marks that is allocated. That means if you have just written what is there as per clause 10, you get maybe only 2. The conclusion carries another 2 marks because application is what we are looking at, not memory. Memory is important, but application is more crucial. Accordingly, you have to reduce the marks if you have not written anything. Got it? Next question. So question number 4. The reliability of the audit evidence depends on its source, nature, and the circumstances under which it is obtained, including the controls over its preparation and maintenance. Although exceptions may exist, few generalizations can be made about reliability of audit evidence. Considering above, discuss such generalizations that can be made about reliability of audit evidence. I think this is one of the fairly easy question to start with, right? As per SA 500, audit evidence, the reliability of the audit, as per SA 500 quote unquote audit evidence, the reliability of the audit evidence is affected by its source and nature. While recognizing that exceptions may exist, the following generalizations about the reliability of audit evidence may be useful. The reliability of the audit evidence is increased when it is obtained from the independent sources of the entity. 1 mark. The reliability of the audit evidence that is generated internally is increased when the related controls, including those over its preparation and maintenance imposed by the entity, are effective. That means internal documents are effective when their controls are strong. That also can be written. That also gives you 1 mark. Audit evidence obtained directly by the auditor is more reliable than the audit evidence obtained indirectly or by inference. You can also like SA505 external confirmation. That also gives you 1 mark. Audit evidence in documentary form, whether paper, electronic or other medium, is more reliable than evidence obtained orally. 1 mark. Audit evidence obtained as original documents, underlying the original document is important. Original document is more reliable than audit evidence obtained as photocopies, facsimiles, or documents that have been filmed, digitized, or otherwise transformed. So these are the 5 points that you should have written. If you have written these 5 points, give yourself 5 marks. If not, reduce the marks accordingly. Got it? Can I move on?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Next question. Kate Private Limited acquired an immovable property of substantial value during the year 23-24, which is recorded in its financial statement as an addition in the schedule of PPE. The auditor also observed that this immovable property has been mortgaged to a bank for availing credit facilities. How should the auditor verify the rights and obligation assertion for this property to ensure that entity's legal ownership and identify any charges against it exist? To verify the rights and obligations, the answer to verify the rights and obligation assertion regarding PPE, the auditor must ensure that the entity has valid legal ownership and identify any charges against it. The auditor should include the following procedures, namely, in addition to the procedures undertaken for verifying the completeness of additions, the auditor, while performing testing the additions, should verify that all PPE purchase invoices are in the name of the entity. The first point is the invoices are held in the name of the entity. In the given case, since the entity has acquired land and building, the auditor should verify whether the sale deed or the conveyance deed is registered in the name of the entity or title deeds. Next, in case the entity has given such immovable property as a security, the auditor should request the entity's management for obtaining confirmation from the respective lenders that they are holding the original title deeds. This is the second point. The next point. Now, the last point is the auditor should verify the register of charges maintained as per the statutory records under the Companies Act 2013. These are the points that you need to write in your answer. Got it? All of you are able to understand? See, it may not be like five marks should have 5 marks, 5 points. Sometimes 5 marker can also have 2-3 points, that's all. But how you write those 2-3 points decides how much you get. Do you understand? So don't be under the impression that it is a 5 mark question. At least I have to write 5 points. There is no such pressure. Or don't be under the impression that 4 marks means only 4 points is enough. It may not work that way also. Sometimes you may have to explain a bit more than a 5 marker. So what is the base? The base is what the question warrants. How the question is framed. Understanding the question is the crux in decoding theory papers like auditing and strategic management particularly. If you don't understand the question, you cannot write the answer. If you don't understand the concept from which they are asking, you cannot recollect your memory to what you have read. That is what you have to understand. Next, Messrs. BPA and Associates was appointed as the auditors of Nissan, a company with pan-India presence for 23-24. The report was issued on 20th August 24. Following the issuance of audit report, CAP instructed junior team member to assemble the final audit file and prepared completion memorandum. Explain the meaning and significance of completion memorandum. Team member Y completed the assembly of final audit file in March 25 and handed it over to CAP. Was the team member correct in his approach? You should be happy if you get more questions from documentation because it's very easy, right? As per SA 230 quote unquote audit documentation, to write this, the auditor shall assemble the audit documentation and audit file and complete the administrative process on a timely basis after the date of auditor's report. Completion, you have to explain what completion memorandum is. Completion memorandum is also called summary memorandum, which considers the summary of the significant judgments encountered during the audit, significant audit observations encountered, and the conclusions reached by the auditor. That is what you have to write, sometimes called completion memorandum, audit summary documentation. Okay, how the conclusions were reached and what are the significant issues that were encountered during the audit and how those were addressed. That is completion memorandum. Next point is very simple. In fact, this is a repetition. Member Mr. Y was not correct in his approach since the assembly of the final audit file should be made within a period of 60 days from the date of auditor's report. In the given case, the audit report was signed on August 20th, 2024. So within a period of October 19th, 2024, the entity should have assembled. Here, Mr. Y is assembling the final audit file in the month of March 25. Therefore, his approach is not correct in line with the standards. Is what you should write. Okay. Got it? Yes. Next. Question number 5. Okay, question number 5. Rohit is conducting the audit of Taste Limited, a food production company, for the last 2 years. Before commencing the audit for the year, he observed that the company has undergone a major shift in its product line by expanding into pharmaceuticals. Besides this, the company is now subject to new regulatory reporting requirements. These developments were now present at the time of accepting the initial audit engagement. Rohit is of the view that there is no need to issue a new audit engagement letter. Examine whether the viewpoint of Rohit is appropriate in accordance with the relevant standards on auditing. As per SEPT'25, agreeing to the terms of audit engagement, quote unquote, you should have written, recurring audit is an audit which is performed by an auditor over the years. In case of recurring audits, the auditor shall assess whether circumstances require the terms of the audit engagement letter to be revised and whether there is a need to remind the entity of the existing terms of the audit engagement. The auditor may decide not to send a new engagement letter each period. However, the following factors may make it appropriate to revise the terms of the audit engagement or to remind the entity of its existing terms when an indication that entity misunderstands the objective and scope of audit, any revised or the special terms of the audit engagement, recent change in the senior management, change in the senior ownership, significant change in the entity's size and nature of business, significant change in legal or regulatory requirements, change in the financial reporting framework, and change in the other reporting requirements. These are the points that you should write. You should write at least 5. However, you have to compulsorily write change in the nature of the entity, change in the regulatory or legal environment. These 2 points should compulsorily be there in your pointers. Considering the above situation as envisaged in the question, since the entity has entered into the new business, there is a major change in the nature of the business, and also there are new regulatory requirements that the entity is subjected to, making it important for the auditor to send the new engagement letter. Hence, the viewpoint of CA Rohit of not sending the new engagement letter is incorrect. This conclusion should carry 1 mark, together with what you have written before, those 3 lines that I read out. Got it? Can we move on? This carries 5 marks. So writing the standard is very important, SA 210. If you have not written, reduce 0.5 mark. It's okay, be very strict now. So in exams, you don't commit these errors. I'm not really interested how much you score in this. I only want to understand where are the places that you have gone wrong. Where is it that you have erred? So when you look into that, not for me, for you only, it's a revelation as to where you have to go and make the corrections. Next question. During the audit of Smile Bank, CSVT found focused on understanding the risk management process. How should CSVT evaluate the adequacy of the bank's risk management controls? Remember, I've given you the mnemonic also. Our ICMR is great. Oversight of management and those charged with governance should approve the written risk management policies. These policies should be consistent with that of the bank's business objectives and strategies. Second, identification, measurement, and monitoring of risks. Risks that could significantly impact the entity's goals should be identified, measured, and monitored against the predetermined criteria. Point number 3, control activities. You should write only these points. If you have written something else, please don't give yourself marks. Okay. Control activities. A bank should have appropriate controls to mitigate the risk. Example, segregation of duties, approval process, reconciliation and postings, setting up limits, reporting and approval of exceptions, etc. Then monitoring activities, risk management models, methodologies, and assumptions used to measure and mitigate risk should be regularly assessed and monitored. The function may be conducted by the independent risk management unit. You can write the internal points can be in your own words, but the keywords, the main point should be verbatim. Reliable information systems. Banks require a reliable information system that provide adequate financial, operational, and compliance information on a timely basis and consistent basis. These are the points. So there are about 5 points. Each point carries 1 mark. If you have not written like this, don't give yourself marks. The next question. Can I move on to the next question? 5C. In establishing the overall audit strategy, the auditor shall, among other considerations, ascertain nature, timing, and extent of resources required. Explain those considerations in detail. As per SA 300, planning and audit of financial statements, quote unquote. The auditor, in establishing the overall audit strategy, the auditor shall identify the characteristics of the engagement that defines its scope, ascertain the reporting objectives of the engagement to plan the timing of the audit, consider the factors that in the audit team's efforts, consider the results of the preliminary engagement activities, and where appropriate, the knowledge gained on other engagements performed by the engagement partner that is relevant, ascertain the nature, timing, and extent of the necessary resources to perform the audit. One moment, I think. Yeah, so these are the points that you need to write. Got it? Those boxes which are there has to be written. That arrow mark boxes were there, no? So those are the points that you have to write. See, even I got confused and I thought we have to write about the resources, what, how, when. But it's not. You see, the question is what factors should we consider, right? So that's how it is confusing. The strategy chapter is very confusing. If you have written that, you all don't worry. Even I also have done the same thing. So what you should do, you should read properly. That's what I'm telling you. Next. Next question. Mention any 3 standards issued under the authority of ICI, which are collectively known as engagement standards. Also mention the purpose of these standards. I hope you have written this question, right? 616A is quite simple. Engagement and quality control standards are issued by ICI, which are known as engagement standards. Standards on auditing, which apply in the audit of historical financial information. Standards on review engagements, which apply in the review of historical financial information. Standards on assurance engagements, which apply in assurance engagements other than audits and review of historical financial information. Standards on related services, which apply in agreed upon procedures, the information, compilation engagements, and other related service engagements. If you have written the names of essays, some of us may have written some names of essays only, then you will get only 1 mark. See, because they are not asking you to list auditing standards. I don't know whether you read the question carefully. They've asked you to write standards, not audit. Give any 3 auditing standards or standards on auditing. It's not a question. Engagement standards is what they're asking. So to write the buckets, those four buckets, right? So any three they're expecting you to write, because there are four, you're expected to write any three. If you've written only standards on auditing, but you've not written standards on auditing, but just explain 200, 230, you'll not get marks. You understand? The question looks very, that's why I'm telling you, introduction chapters are very simple, but quite tricky when they frame questions. So if you've written simply essay 200, essay through 230, some people would have written 500, 501, like that. So it will not give you marks because you've not written standards on auditing that applies in case of audit of historical financial information. Got it? So next, this is the first part of the question. The second part of the question, purpose of these standards. The purpose of these standards is to establish high quality standards and guide in the areas of financial statements audit and in other types of assurance engagements. So this is what you're supposed to or expected to write. Got it? Understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can we move on to the next question? When more persuasive audit evidence is needed regarding the effectiveness of control, it may be appropriate to increase the extent of testing of the control as well as the degree of reliance. Discuss the matters the auditor may consider in determining the extent of test of controls. This is again from 315. Matters and 330. Matters that may be related in determining the extent of test of controls include the following: the frequency of the performance of the control by the entity during the period, the length of time during the audit period that the auditor is relying on the operating effectiveness of the control, the expected rate of deviation from a control, the relevance and reliability of the audit evidence to be obtained regarding the operating effectiveness of the control at the assertion level, the extent to which the audit evidence is obtained from test of other controls related to the same assertion. So these 5 points will give you 5 marks. This is actually as per essay 330. The principles are covered in essay 330. Next, the management of PQ Limited changed during the period under audit. Mr. Govind, an auditor, at the time of receiving written representation on management responsibilities from the management, was in a dilemma related to the date of periods covered under the written representation. Further, new management was of the view that they can give representation from the date they took over and not for the prior period when old management were managing the affairs of the company. Guide the auditor and the management in this respect. Very recently concluded concept, SA 580, written representations. One moment. I think the answer key is jumbled. One moment. The date of return representations, as per SFIT quote unquote, the date of return representations shall be as near as practicable to, but not after the date of auditor's report on the financial statements. The written representations shall be for all the financial statements and periods referred to in the auditor's report. So this is the first point. You have to write. This is the crux of the entire answer is based on only these three lines. In the given case, the management was of the view that they could give the representation only from the date they took over. However, the management is under the obligation to issue the representation for the entire period covered under the audit. The fact that it was managed by the previous management does not absolve their liability or responsibility to provide the written representation. This is what you should write the answer. Got it? You understand? See, it is quite simple. This is very simple. You have to say that the written representation should be as close as practicable to the date of auditor's report. It should cover all the period under consideration, and it has to be given by the current management. Doesn't matter whether they were there in the past or not. If you write this, you'll get 5 marks. That's what I'm telling you. Some questions are simple. You need not write, elaborate answers for that question because the question does not really warrant. That's the thing. If you have written this, okay, fine. Otherwise, there was one more question. I mean, optional question. Schedule 3 of the Companies Act prescribes disclosure of certain ratios as part of the additional regulatory information. Mention any 3 ratios that should be disclosed. Very simple. You can know, you can write all the ratios. One of them will for sure be right. As per the requirements of Schedule 3 to the Companies Act, following ratios are required to be disclosed: current ratio, debt equity ratio, debt service coverage ratio, return on equity ratio, inventory turnover ratio, trade receivables turnover ratio, trade payables turnover ratio, net capital turnover ratio, NP ratio, return on capital employed, return on investment. If you have written on this much, any three, you will get 3 marks. Okay. There's one more point that you should write. What is that? Is the company shall explain the items included in the numerator and denominator for computing the above ratios. Further explanation shall be provided for any change in the ratio by more than 25% as compared to the previous year. This will carry 1 mark. So if you were to be intelligent, no, instead of writing written representation, you should have written this question because it's very simple, right? So that's how you make a choice. When a choice is given, that's how you have to do it. Got it? Yeah. So now I'll give you 2 minutes time. Can you please do the totaling? Please do it. Do separate totals for MCQs as well as descriptive and then add it up. Sorry, my bad. Is it done? Are we done totaling? Totaling should not take much time, I believe. Correct, no? It's quite easy here. Yeah, not to disrespect your demean you, but to be honest, totaling doesn't take much time because there are very limited questions. Where people can turn their videos on, and people are generally leaving class just like that. Initially, when I came in, it was 40. Now it has become 31. I don't know. People have absolutely no discipline. This is intentionally told to those who have left, if at all, if they come back and listen. To those who are absolutely indisciplined to leave class just like that. It's very rude on their part to be leaving. As a student, how can they leave? They don't even have a courtesy to even intimate. when they leave. Very bad on their part. Anybody, whatever be the issue, network issue cannot be the daily routine. It has become the norm in this class. Very bad. Okay, so let's do the total. We have done the totaling. So totals. How many of you got above 65? 65, I didn't start with 80. I started, my class interval is very low. 65 and above, not much. Okay, one. How much did you get?
65, sir.
Oh, 65, exactly. Very good. Yeah. 60 to 65 range. Anybody is somewhere between 60 to 65? One. I mean, good. Okay. How much did you get, Abhay?
62.5, sir.
62.5. Okay. Vishruta?
60.
60. Okay. On dot 60. Yeah. 50 to 60. How much did you get, Chana?
56, sir.
56. Aditya?
58.5, sir.
58.5. Madhuri?
57, sir.
57. Chinmay?
53.
53. Okay. Good. Thank you. So from 45 to 50, nobody has scored between 45 to 50. 1, 2. Okay. Okay. 40 to 45. Okay. Thank you. Less than 40, do we have anybody who scored less than 40? I mean, it's fine. Only one. There'll be quite a few, but you may be hesitant to raise your hand. It's okay. Even if you have scored less than 40, it's fine. I'm not going to judge you because that is my result, no? It's okay, no worries. Thank you. Load on your hand. Don't get disheartened. See, these marks are not going to show any indication how you would perform in your main board. But those who are not able to write even basic questions is an important red alert for everybody to start preparing. And especially those students who are writing in September, you should get more than what we have assessed now because the paper was not so difficult, right? If you see Jan 25 paper and all, it's quite standard. It's not that standard, and some of the questions were very basic. And that too, no question was asked on chapter number 9 at all, right? So quite simple. Now, please assess where you have gone wrong more than getting 60, 65, 80, 70 or less than 40 doesn't matter, but where are you going wrong? Why is it that you are not getting marks? What I have read versus what you have written, is there too much of gap? I'm sure that nobody would have written verbatim of what I've read. Even if you ask me, I cannot, but somewhere are we close to it is something that I need to assess. Now let's do one more assessment. How many of you scored 30 on 13 MCQs? I mean, you have got 16 questions. So even if you consider one, okay, choice that we have not written one question wrong, that we'll ignore. So ignore one, we have not gotten it right. So how many of you got 30 on 30? Nobody. 25 and above? Nobody got 25 and above. Now, quite shocking. Kavana, how much did you get in MCQs?
22, sir.
22. So with 22, you are able to get 65. So if you improve your MCQs, then there's high possibility to get better marks, right? 20, 20 to 25. Yeah, this number is also quite low because the questions you should, that's what I'm trying to tell you. The target should at least be 24. You cannot fall below 24 no matter what the question is. Understand it, write it, read it twice, and then mark. I don't know how you are going to do it. You have to. That's the target which I've set. Anybody got less than 10 in MCQs? Nobody got less than 10. So that means the rest all fall under 10 to 20 category. Yeah. Okay, nobody got less than 10. That's a good thing, but not a great thing. Yeah. Okay. Fine. So please do analyze where you're going wrong. Which question was the most difficult question to answer? Which question you selected and you felt that, okay, this question is not right for me to write. Maybe you have to leave it as choice. Is something that you need to assess. See, this is a mock test. This doesn't really determine your performance in the main exam. I'm telling you, don't get disheartened. Don't be overconfident by this marks. Both I'm trying to convey. This gives you a form of a real experience as to how questions are coupled, how you have to pick question or how you have to eliminate question, how you should start writing the question, and what are all the challenges that you faced when you started penning it down. It's not so easy. I speak for hours. If you ask me to write it down, you find it difficult. The starting point is difficult. So if you have observed the question paper, the last two lines was very straightforward. You can connect directly to the study material. So if those last 2 points, if you have figured it out, there is no way that you can lose the question because there is no trick in the last two questions. The entire trick that they are going to place only in the first 4 5 lines, which even if you don't read, doesn't matter. The initial questions, Rohit, Rimi, Gimi, whoever was there, they all came and went. But what remained constant was the last two lines, which explained you what you have to write. So reading the questions carefully would probably fetch you better marks than what you have scored. But the performance, what you have gotten is not really up to the mark, to be very honest and blunt with you. You all agree and acknowledge that it's surely lack of preparations, right? Now don't think that my exams are in Jan, my exams are in May, so I will prepare then. That day will never come. What will come is only your exam. So don't be lethargic, don't be lazy. Please start preparing. Those who are in September, I will not even make this statement because you already know where you stand, right? So I need not say that you have to study. It will be a joke if I have to address the September people who are writing in September, please study. It's a joke. So I'm more concerned about those who are writing in Jan and May because they seem to be very, very lethargic and relaxed. Don't do that. So if you have any specific questions, I'll take it up in the next class. After the conclusion of the class, I'll stay back. If you want me to give any idea or where you have gone wrong, you let me know. We'll analyze it further, right? So I have, and it's very difficult, to be honest, it's very difficult to make evaluation like this where I read out and you mark because I don't know what you have written. I don't know whether you've understood what I'm talking. If your answer keys are given to me, I will sit and read each and every answer and mark. That's not happening. So, but you can compare now as to what has been stated out versus what you have written. That itself is misstatement. So you assess whether your misstatement is material or immaterial or what. Okay. So, but the performance is not so great with a paper like this. It should have been much better, but it's okay. Your mock test, you have to take next mock test, you have to take it very seriously and write. And mock test for the September exams, I think the schedule is also announced. Whether you are writing in September or not, go and give the attempt. Attempt as in read the question, write the answer by looking into the study material. ಇವಾಗ ಹುಡುಕಿ ಬರೆಯೋದು ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಬುಕ್ ಪಕ್ಕ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ನೋಡೋದು ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಹುಡುಕೋದು ಬರೆಯೋದು ಅದನ್ನಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ದೆನ್ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ರೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಸರ್ಟನ್ ಪ್ಯಾರಾಗ್ರಾಫ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಹಂಗಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಟು ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಓ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಏನೇನೆಲ್ಲ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ಎಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ಬೇಕು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅದೇ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದಿಲ್ಲ ಏನೋ ಇದ್ದಪ್ಪ ಮೆಟೀರಿಯಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಲ್ಲೋ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು 5 ಪೇಜ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು 10 ಪೇಜ್ ಓದ್ ಮುಗಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಮಂಗಳ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಂಗಳ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ನಿಮ್ ಮಂಗಳ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಸೊ ಆ ತರ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಡೆಡಿಕೇಟೆಡ್ ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನ್ಡ್ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಓದ್ಬೇಕು ನಾನು ಹೇಳೋದೆಲ್ಲ ಇರಿಟೇಷನ್ ಅನ್ಸ್ಬೋದು, ಬಟ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಲ್ಲ. ಇದು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬೇರೆ ಏನು ಇಲ್ವೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕೆ. ನಾನು ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ಕಲ್ತ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಂದು ಹೇಳ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಪ್ರಯೋಜನ ಏನು? ಸಂಬಂಧ ಇಲ್ವೇ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಸ್ಗೆ? ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್, ಸಿ there is a nice sentence. You are very good, but are you good enough? Right? You all are very good. I understand. There's no doubt that you people are very good. But are you good enough to clear the stage? Is dependent on how you write, no? It's not going to work on the basis of emotions or your humane nature or your kindness or your good qualities either. So it is going to supplement you, but that itself will not be able to help you to clear the exams, right? So on that note, don't be sad or disheartened that I came today. You were all these while the days were going on well, especially after Habba you came. Sorry, I can't help certain times. You eat well if you have not eaten. You sleep only if you have not slept in the class. Thank you. Good night. We'll meet again in the next class. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye,
Okay.
sir.
Bye, sir.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
sir.
Bye.